until we wind up hiring. But at 11 years old now as an organization, we now have more SSDP alumni than we do members of SSDP chapters. And up until now, we've never really had a major concerted effort to get those alumni back involved and engaged in the organization. So we're going to have a full-time staff member whose job will be dedicated to organizing our alumni, keeping them involved in SSDP and drug policy reform, getting them to mentor current SSDP chapter members, serving as mentors to their former chapters and other chapters in their area. They'll be organizing meet and greets and happy hours and alumni events modeled kind of on like a fraternity or sorority alumni model, essentially, because for most SSDPers, SSDP it is a social network. Many SSDPers aren't involved in fraternities or sororities. Some are, but many aren't. But for many of you, and certainly for me in college, and I'm sure for a lot of you in this room, SSDP has been your social network in college. They've been your friends. They haven't just been the people who you're doing kick-ass work with and changing laws. But they're also people who you hang out with after the meetings and have fun with. And when you graduate college, you're gonna leave with those memories and those connections that you're gonna that we need as an organization to help continue those connections and help continue your connection to the national organization after graduation. And also, we hope that our alumni will help provide a base of funding support for the organization in the years ahead, so that we have sort of a base level of funding coming from monthly donations from alumni. That when somebody graduates from college, they graduate from an SSDP chapter, and they get their first job, that they start giving, say, $5 a month to SSDP, something you're never going to feel come out of your paycheck, but $5 a month from 1,000 alumni is a staff member. It's a new staff member. It's a new outreach director who we can hire to help with our existing chapters. And so it's a way for our alumni to give a little bit back, a relatively small amount, which can really help us as a national organization provide support to the next generation of drug policy activists so that they have the same opportunities in their SSDP chapters that our alumni did when they were in school. So really excited to bring on this alumni director. Which is a good segue into, I'm really excited myself to join the SSDP Alumni Network. I'm really proud of what we've accomplished here in this last decade, in these last 11 years, and as most of you in this room know, I'm going to be stepping down as SSDP's executive director. It's okay, I'll still be here.
3 more years.
But I will be stepping down sometime this summer after 3.5 incredible years as executive director of the national organization. In these last 3.5 years, I've really come to think of SSDP not just as my job, but my family. And I hope that everyone in this room leaves this conference and leaves your involvement in SSDP with the same feeling of belonging and acceptance that I've had the privilege of feeling on a day-to-day basis. When I come into work every day and do my job, helping to lead this organization. And even after I leave, as I mentioned, I look forward to being involved in SSDP. I'm looking forward to being involved in the alumni network and staying connected to SSDP activists, past, present, and future. But I do feel that the time is right to hand the reins of control of the organization over to the next generation of SSDP activists. As I mentioned, we've graduated so many terrific activists, and we've come so far as an organization that I think the timing's right for a new generation of SSDPers to really take control and to mold this organization into what it needs to become in the years to come here. When we started, like I said, when we started this organization, communicating over email wasn't considered revolutionary. Now email is it's almost an outdated form of communication. With all these new forms of Facebook and MySpace and viral video campaigns and all this other stuff. And you guys are on the cutting edge of student activism. It's this next generation, the generation that's come after the first generation of SSDPers, that are really on the cutting edge of student activism. And it's time for you guys to really take control and move this organization forward. Looking around the room here and reflecting on what we've become as an organization over the last 11 years, I've never been more confident that we have the manpower, that we have the woman power, that we have the numbers, the pure numbers, and dedication and talent to make a lasting change that I think we really need to make in order to effectively deal with drugs and drug policy in this country. And I feel very confident in saying that this generation of SSDP activists are the most politically savvy, the most technologically savvy students that I've ever met, and I'm confident in your ability to lead not only the student movement to end the war on drugs, but to lead the entire movement to end the war on drugs. It will be this generation of activists who helps to change the conversation around drugs from a criminal justice issue to a public health issue. It will be this generation that pushes for drug users to be treated with fundamental human rights and not stigmatized or dehumanized because of what they choose to put into their own bodies. For far too long, drug users have been treated as some sort of subclass. And whether we, like Ethan says, whether people love drugs or hate drugs, whether they use drugs or not, it's up to you, it's up to all of you and all of us in this room to recognize that drug users are human beings and deserve the same fundamental human rights that every other human being deserves, and don't deserve to be treated as animals, don't deserve to be dehumanized, don't deserve to be locked up in cages because they have an addiction issue, or just because they maybe like to use drugs on the weekend. That this is a human rights issue above all. And I hope that you all keep that in mind moving forward. It's going to be this generation here that sounds the alarm on the horrific and unjust impact that our racially biased drug law enforcement has on communities of color around this country. Because it really is the communities of color in the United States that bear the brunt of drug policy enforcement. And I don't need to go through the numbers, you all know them. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. It is the new Jim Crow, and we need to recognize that. And we need, as a movement, to do a much better job of reaching out to communities who are most affected by drug policy. So I hope that many of you will be able to attend the workshop tomorrow that's being run by some organizers from Break the Chains, which is all about effective coalition building and reaching out to affected communities. It's something that we've been working on with Break the Chains for the last year, developing this workshop so that SSDP chapters have the tools and the ability to reach out most effectively to affected communities, form coalitions, and work on projects in coalition with these communities to bring them into the movement, to bring us into their movements, and to really, because I don't think that we're going to be truly successful as a drug policy reform movement unless we bring the communities who are most impacted by drugs into this movement. And we're going to do it by building coalitions. So I hope you all will attend that session tomorrow if you get the opportunity to. And really, it'll be this generation that no longer allows 500,000 nonviolent drug offenders to be incarcerated in the name of protecting youth. And it's always been in the name of protecting young people. It's always about the children. What are we going to do about the children? What about the message we send to kids? What about the message we send to young people? Well, you know what? Fuck that. You guys are the young people. We're the young people, right? And it's really, I'm sorry. This is one of the principles that SSDP was founded on, which is true today as it was 10 or 11 years ago, that we're not going to allow the drug war to be propagated in our name. And I think that term, not in our name, rings as true now as it did 11 years ago, that we are the DARE generation. We're the generation that grew up with the DARE program, that are told that drugs are evil, drugs are bad. If you do drugs, you're a bad person. If your parents do drugs, you should turn them into the police. If you smoke marijuana, you're going to become a heroin addict. All this nonsense that we were lied to as kids. And you know what? There's no better motivating factor to do something, to change things, than having been lied to. And we all were. We all were DARE graduates or some other program similar to DARE. We all went through it. We all heard the lies and the bullshit. And it's up to us to say, you know what? No more of this. No more of this in our name. We're not going to justify incarcerating 500,000 people in our name. We're not going to justify incarcerating, was it 80% of drug offenders as people of color. We're not going to allow a generation of African Americans to be incarcerated in the name of protecting me from marijuana. It's outrageous, and we need to stop it, and it's going to be up to you guys in this room to make sure that you carry that message forward into the future and make sure that the drug policies of the future are no longer propagated in the name of protecting youth, but are actually devised but based on evidence that actually protects youth. And the only way that's going to happen is if youth have a seat at the table And young people have a seat at the table in devising these drug policies. So you need to storm the halls of Congress, storm your state legislatures, not with guns or anything like that, you know, pens and suits. But seriously, and let them know that you're not going to stand idly by as drug policies are propagated in your name, that you demand a seat at the table when they're coming up with the next generation of drug policies.